Marik Ishtar, the second big bad of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monster series, had a lot to live up to following in Pegasus' footsteps. The man with a severe split personality and a lot of fan favorites made the Battle City arc, in my opinion, the best in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Today, I'd like to go over Marik Ishtar from his background, motivations, villainous activities, and so forth. I hope you enjoy. We first meet a member of the Ishtar family when Ishizu, older sister of Marik, arrives in Domino City with her exclusive Ancient Egypt exhibit. She personally invites Kaiba to view the exhibit and explains what the god cards are. Obviously piquing Kaiba's interest, she gives him Obelisk to torment her and tells him about the ghouls or rare hunters. With this info, she suggests he hosts a tournament to attract these hunters to Domino City in order to find the other two god cards. We get our first impression of Marik when Yugi duels Bandit Keith, but something seems off. Marik, using the Millennium Rod, can basically mind control people, and he's done this with Bandit Keith to try to defeat Yugi. Ultimately, he fails, but this gives our characters a small taste of what's to come, but still don't know who Marik is. It's big to note that Marik hates the Pharaoh, but I'll get into that a little later in the video. Battle City officially begins, and the ghouls are all over the city using fake cards and illegal decks such as the ghoul that defeats Joey and ultimately loses to Yugi, who has 3 copies of each piece of Exodia. Illegal. After Yugi defeats this ghoul, Marik mind controls him to basically warn Yugi of a mime-like person in the future. At this point, we as the viewer and the characters can begin to put together that Marik is the leader of the ghouls, as he loves mind controlling them whenever he wants. Yugi then gets approached by a mask-wearing fellow and is forced to duel against a Dark Magician deck, a first in the series as typically each character runs their own unique deck, so seeing a clash of very similar decks with the same ace monster was really cool. The duel seems normal except if you lose, Saw Blades will pretty much cut you in half. Yugi defeats the mask-wearing guy and once again Marik takes control and warns Yugi of what's to come in the future. Fast forward a bit and Strings, the mime character, confronts Yugi to duel. Strings is then mind controlled by Marik and eventually summons the Egyptian god Slifer the Sky Dragon, and everything seems hopeless to Yugi. This is one of my favorite duels because we see Yugi create an infinite loop to defeat Slifer via a deck out, and Marik is absolutely crushed as his strategy was hard countered. At this point, Marik really looks to escalate his plans to destroy the Pharaoh, and keep in mind, we as the viewers still don't know why he hates the Pharaoh as much as he does, but we'll get that soon, I swear. Marik thinks, what's the best way to get at Yugi? Let me mind control his closest friend, Joey Wheeler. As Strings, Marik tells Yugi his plan to go after Joey sorta as a flex, as Marik has sent the deadly tag team of Loomis and Umbra to take out Yugi and Kaiba in a tag team duel. Happening at the same time, Marik finally confronts the main cast in person, but since they still don't know his face, he goes by Namu to fool Joey into thinking he's just some beginner duelist. Under this guise, Marik, or Namu, successfully gets his ghouls to kidnap Joey and Taya. Meanwhile, Yugi and Kaiba are quite literally dueling for their lives atop a skyscraper where, if their life points hit 0, a bomb explodes and drops into the floor below. Insane stuff! Ultimately, Yugi and Kaiba prevail, but Yugi was protected by plot, as at a point in the duel he could have been attacked directly and lost all his life points, but they decide not to, so plot armor. Anyways, after the pair win, Marik takes over the ghouls and tells Yugi, hey, I got your boy, GG's. In addition to Joey and Taya, Mokuba, Kaiba's little brother, was also kidnapped again. He manages to escape captivity and realizes they are being held at the docks, which he relays to Kaiba ASAP. With this knowledge, Yugi and Kaiba head over. We meet Rashido, or Odion in the English dub, who is Marik's right hand man, and he has made some changes to Joey's deck in preparation to duel Yugi. Having created a burn deck, the main card here is Hinotama, which inflicts 500 direct life point damage, which is illegal in Battle City by the way. Yugi and Kaiba arrive, and this might be the worst duel scenario in the series, and I mean that in a good way. This setup is ridiculous, and I argue the most evil thing a villain has done, and that includes stealing souls. So brainwashed Joey and Yugi must duel each other. However, their ankles are chained up and are tied to a massive anchor, so whoever loses gets plunged into the ocean. Fantastic. You would think, okay. Well, Kaiba can surely stop this duel as he doesn't approve of death duels obviously, but don't worry as Marik has thought of that as well. Next to the duel is Taya locked in a chair with a massive storage container hovering above her with a ghoul controlling it. Basically, Any interference means that container is coming down on Taya, and this is always my confusion as to why people defend Marik after the events of Battle City, saying he's redeemed, etc, etc. This duel alone is probably the most evil, messed up duel in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh, as it really is a lose-lose situation. If Yugi wins, Joey dies, and vice versa, and if neither duel, Taya gets crushed.
Come on.
In the end, Yugi lets Joey win, so Joey is free, but also breaks free of Marik's mind control. Yugi begins to plummet to the bottom of the ocean. Meanwhile, Kaiba throws his Blue Eyes card like a damn shuriken from Naruto to hit the ghoul controlling the storage container, then crashes a remote-controlled helicopter into the container to save Taya. What a flex. Joey makes himself lose all his life points, so Yugi's key to free his lock is available, and Tristan, or Honda, dives into the ocean to make the save, thus making the day a success and a terrible loss for Marik and his plans. After that fiasco, each of our main casts have qualified for the Battle City finals, and the 8 duelists begin to gather at Kaiba's stadium that isn't complete. Namu arrives, who we know is Marik, but the cast don't know that yet. Odion, aka Marik, arrives, and honestly, I feel like if he loses a duel, he could just throw hands with anyone as he's massive and looks sick, but I digress. Ishizu is the final duelist to arrive, so we have our top 8 set. This is where Battle City really starts to ramp up in terms of stakes, and I know that sounds crazy after the whole anchor situation, but trust me here. Duels are picked at random, and we'll fast forward to Marik / Odion versus Joey. This duel is pivotal as the real Marik is instructing Odion to use the Winged Dragon of Ra, even though it is a fake in his possession. Odion has a chance to defeat Joey, and before he does, Marik demands Ra be summoned so the characters still believe he is being Marik. He uses it and both himself and Joey get struck by lightning. Joey awakens to win the duel and Odion is, I guess, put into a coma. At this point, we the viewer get a flashback of Marik's past, of Odion being his adopted older brother to Marik's family of Tomb Keepers. The Tomb Keepers are a group that protect the tomb of the Nameless Pharaoh. At the age of 10, boys are forced to get the Tablet of Lost Memories carved into their back. Pretty brutal stuff. So Marik is slayed to have this happen, but Odion insists that he have the same carvings done to him as well. Marik's dad agrees, and Marik gets his carvings, but in order to deal with the pain, he creates a separate personality. Marik is resting in bed furious and in pain about the whole ordeal, and at that moment Marik notices that Odion had the same carvings carved into his face so he could share his pain. So now you have an idea of how close Marik and Odion truly are. As Odion lays seemingly lifeless after his duel with Joey, we begin to see Marik go through a crisis. That personality he created during his carving as a child is beginning to push through. After a little fight within, we finally meet Yami Marik, who is the split personality of Marik and a whole lot worse. Yami Marik plays a pretty crazy deck utilizing the Winged Dragon of Ra to the best of its abilities. The next duel up is My Valentine versus Yami Marik, and we begin to see Yami Marik does not play around. He plunges the duel into a shadow game, and every time a monster is destroyed, it represents the memories of someone you know. For example, the first monster Mai loses erases her memories of Taya. Later in the duel, the memories of Joey are erased and this devastates Mai, and you can really see the shadow game is taking its toll on Mai, and Yami Marik loves it. Yami Marik baits Mai into summoning the Winged Dragon of Ra, but the little rascal he is, he doesn't tell Mai that you need to chant the ancient text on the card in order to properly use Ra. Yami Marik then does the chant and yoinks Ra away from Mai and fires a massive fireball, but Joey goes up to protect her. Yugi, seeing this, does not let that fly and takes the fireball head on to shield the both of them. Mai loses and Yami Marik traps her in a pyramid above a beach scene where her friends are playing and having a good time. Except this pyramid is filling up with sand. Just insanely evil stuff in play. It's hilarious going back and watching the scene that it was in a kid show. I'm going to skip ahead a bit as Kaiba defeats Ishizu. So Yami Marik wants to kill Odion, and we see a few attempts of this as he tries to stab him to death using the Millennium Rod, but every time he's either interrupted or someone walks in. The reason for wanting Odion dead is that Odion is the only thing that was keeping Yami Marik locked away. Yami Bakura shows up and challenges Yami Marik to a duel with the winner receiving the Millennium Rod. Yami Marik agrees and the two duel in a shadow game, of course. Here's another instance of Marik not telling his opponent the effects and conditions of the Winged Dragon of Ra. Yami Bakura takes Ra from Yami Marik and successfully summons it, but with 0 attack points to Yami Marik's counter. What Yami Marik fails to tell Yami Bakura is you can give all your life points but 1 the power of Ra, essentially a way for Ra to OTK an opponent. Because of this lack of knowledge, Yami Marik ultimately defeats Yami Bakura and banishes him to the Shadow Realm, but Yami Bakura is actually within the Millennium Puzzle. but that's for my Yami Bakura breakdown in the future. So before we dive into arguably the most controversial duel in the Duel Monsters series, let's dive into the backstory of Marik and his motivations for hating the Pharaoh. As mentioned previously, Marik and his siblings Yugioh and adopted brother Odion are tomb keepers, meaning they are required to stay underground to guard the tomb of the nameless pharaoh, aka Yami. At the age of 10, male tomb keepers must have the Tablet of Lost Memories carved into their back so that when the pharaoh is resurrected, he can learn his name. When Marik gets his carving, he creates a split personality to deal with the pain and torment that came with such a devastating experience. One day, Marik pleads with Yugioh to let him explore the outside world, and she reluctantly agrees. They explore a local market, and Marik sees a TV for the first time as well as a magazine with a motorcycle which he idolizes. As they try to sneak back into the tomb, Yugioh notices her dad has found out that they snuck out, and Marik's dad punishes Odion brutally. Marik runs in to see the punishment and grabs a Millennium Rod, and Yami Marik takes control. Using the rod, he pins Marik's dad to the wall and proceeds to stab him to death. Pretty brutal stuff here. After, Yami Marik recedes back and Odion quickly grabs Marik to hide what he's done to his father, but Marik still looks at his now deceased father and sees the ghost of Shadi, which he knows is associated with the pharaoh, thus Marik believing the pharaoh had something to do with his father being killed. So now we have a little more info on why Marik despises the pharaoh and wants him gone. The semi-finals of Battle City have begun, and it's Yami Marik versus Joey. Yami Marik of course makes it a shadow game, and the stipulation is that the monsters you summon are linked to you as a duelist, so any pain they endure when destroyed is transferred to you. Yami Marik toys with Joey for a good little chunk of the duel, but the tides turn once Joey summons Guilford the Lightning and wipes Marik's field. At this point, Marik has sent the Winddragon Ra to his graveyard and uses Monster Reborn to summon Ra in its Phoenix mode. Using Ra's effect, Marik can pay 1000 life points to destroy Guilford the Lightning, and Marik did this expecting the damage done would end Joey. Due to Egyptian God card effects, spells such as Monster Reborn only last one turn, so Ra returns to the graveyard and Marik's field is empty. Joey, fighting for his life, draws and summons Gearfree the Iron Knight, but before he can officially declare an attack and win, he seemingly passes away. So technically, Marik would have lost the duel, but due to Shadow Game shenanigans, Joey ultimately loses the duel. Marik, who was massively underestimating Joey, throws up from the close call, and honestly, if I'm beefing with someone talking all this big game and his boy comes by and basically beats my ass, I'd be sick too. So Marik is in the finals, and it's Kaiba versus Yugi, and ultimately Yugi beats Kaiba and wins Obelisk and arguably the best duel in the series. So it's the Pharaoh versus Yami Marik, the duel we've all been waiting for all Battle City. This duel of course plunges into a shadow game, and Yami Marik forces host Yugi and regular Marik to be strung up, and every time Yami Marik or the Pharaoh lose life points, part of them fade away until there is nothing left. So this is where Yami Marik low-key cheats his way out of the consequences of this shadow duel. So the Pharaoh will lose host Yugi if he loses this duel, thus losing his host body and basically ceasing to exist. Yami Marik will lose Marik, but that doesn't matter as Yami Marik has full control of Marik's body, so technically him losing means he has no one stopping him from losing control in the future, so honestly a win-win for Yami Marik here. I've always enjoyed this duel as it is the follow-up to Kai vs Yugi, and honestly it's up there. At this point, Yugi owns both Obelisk and Slifer to contend with Yami Marik's Wingdragon and Ra. The stakes for his duel are huge, as Mai is still trapped in that pyramid of sand, and if Yami Marik wins, he will have all 3 Egyptian god cards. Yugi is the first to get out a god card, Slifer the Sky Dragon, with a whopping 6000 attack and defense, and tries to go for game, but Yami Marik uses Monster Reborn to summon Ra in Phoenix mode, which Slifer can't destroy. Using Ra's effect by paying 1000 life points, Slifer the Sky Dragon is destroyed. Yugi places Fiend Sanctuary face down, a card Kaiba had given to Yugi right before this duel. Yami Marik uses Ra's effect to pay all but 1 life point to give Ra 2999 attack points, as well as tributing Juragedo to add to Ra's attack power, making a whopping 4699 attack points. Yami Marik is shown being fused to Ra, and this is important to note literally on this turn. As Yami Marik goes for game, Yugi activates Fiend Sanctuary, which summons a metal token, and as a result, the token reflects the damage back to Yami Marik, but Yami Marik uses Defusion to separate himself from Ra, because I guess that's how that works. Since he defused, he does not take the damage that Fiend Sanctuary would have caused. At this point, Yami Marik has 4700 life points to Yugi's 3300 life points. Due to Fiend Sanctuary's maintenance cost, Yugi must pay 1000 life points. Activating Multiply, Yugi has 3 metal tokens that he sacrifices to summon Obelisk the Tormentor, and in the English dub, he makes sure to mention he won it from Kaiba, which I find hilarious. Yugi uses Obelisk to absolutely rock Yami Marik for 4,000 damage. Yami Marik claims other Marik feels the pain more, but my boy looks winded after catching one in the chest. Yami Marik starts to boast about his deck, claiming his theme is immortality and his setup is kinda clean. Since he took the damage from Obelisk, he's able to summon Egyptian God Slime and fuse it with Revival Jam to make it invincible, in addition to having Boganian, I think that's how we say it, on the field, which will inflict 300 life points of damage to Yugi at the end of his turns. Odion awakes from his coma after receiving a message from regular Marik about how much he appreciates him, etc, etc. Odion slowly begins to make his way up to the duel. Yami Marik, of course, is able to summon Ra to the field yet again, and all seems lost. Yami Marik fuses with the Winged Dragon of Ra, and around this time, Odion has arrived at the duel, and seeing Odion, regular Marik begins to have some fight in him. This is the moment Yugi's been waiting for. He activates Ragnarok, which banishes all of Yugi's monsters from play in order to banish Yami Marik's monsters, including the Winged Dragon of Ra that Yami Marik is almost entirely fused with. With most of Yami Marik banished, regular Marik is able to take control of his body and forfeits the duel, thus destroying Yami Marik for good. Before handing Ra to Yugi, Marik explains that everyone sent to Shadow Realm by Yami Marik will return safely, and also shows Yugi the carving on his back so the Pharaoh may learn his name. And that basically wraps up Battle City and Marik / Yami Marik's arc. To me, Marik is peak Yugioh. Best villain in the series. His motivations are understandable, his actions are pretty evil, really showing he means business, and his personality along with sending everyone to the Shadow Realm really cements Marik as the absolute best Yu-Gi-Oh villain. I kind of feel like he would have been a better final villain, but that's for another video. Thanks so much for watching.